somewhat local. At least she's in the same time zone.
Anyway, boop, boop, and boop.
Yep, we are live.
Hopefully I have the right thing. Yes.
We are now live. Oh, wait. There's something you need to do. Oh, it's already there.
Want to change the title?
Listen, no, the title's fine.
Oh.
No, just the fact that I did not see that you said, oh, hey, I have a stream going on Discord. Why do you think I like Rebecca so much? She's a dork like I am.
Hey.
Dorks of a feather should flock together.
Y'all fly?
Shut up! Actually, damn it.
Okay. It's not gonna crash this time, Garnet.
Emerald Onyx is honestly more well behaved.
Compared to Crimson Garnet over here.
Yes.
At some point, she's due for another upgrade. But when, I don't know.
Anyways, yeah, let's go, guys. Let's finish this.
Don't worry, I got us back to where we crashed.
Yay!
Yay! Dawn came and Hichikata-san led the advance guard in an attack on Utsunomiya Castle itself. Their previous cowardice now forgotten. His troops fell upon the castle's defenders with great vigor.
They keep this up. Taking this castle might be easier than I thought.
He looked at me with a slight grin just as Shimada-san appeared.
Hijikata-san, the men we sent to the banquet hall ran into trouble. What? We haven't had any real resistance so far. I don't know the details. Should I go see... No, I'll go. I'm leaving you in charge here. Hello?
Hello.
Oh, hi.
What we doing?
We dubbing.
Yeah, it's dubbing tonight.
Yeah.
Hakuoki.
Do you want to stab him or should I do it?
I was once an adventurer like you until I took an arrow to the knee.
Oh, nope. Okay, get him out. Get him out.
Okay, I'll go.
Got it.
I'm going. Alright, see you guys.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Fucking
Alright.
Skyrim shit!
And I thought I was bad.
Mm.
No, I'll go. I'm leaving you in charge here. Yes, sir.
Hijikata-san, what should I do?
Come with me. I don't want you wandering around. You might get hit by a stray bullet or something.
Okay. Even before we stepped into the banquet hall, I knew something was wrong. Inside, our men were dead on the floor, their bodies laid out like the spokes of a wheel, and at the hub of that wheel...
What are you doing here? Decided you'd take a vacation? You do know there's a war going on out there, right? Or maybe you're just hiding out here, hoping you won't get hurt.
The two men still standing in the banquet hall weren't strangers. They were Kazuma and Amagiri, the demons. Why are you here?
We are acting under orders of the Satsuma domain. We are here to deliver a secret message. We did not expect to be drawn into battle here, and we certainly did not expect to encounter you. Oh, I get it. The new government says bend over, and you guys say how far. Well, you sure are dedicated. You've got my respect. Well, I didn't think I'd ever see you again so soon, Hijikata, or whatever your name is.
Cosmo's eyes glittered like a pair of rubies.
Didn't think you were so anxious to get your face all cut up again. Well, don't worry. I'm happy to oblige. Damn you!
Cosmo ground his teeth and drew the sword slung at his hip. We have sound effects for this one, sir.
I know, but I can't help it.
It's not SSL, where we have none of them for some reason.
Yes, I know.
That's really weird, by the way.
Yeah.
It wasn't the sword he'd worn the last time we met. Oh!
Oh, he swapped up.
Wait, was this always the case? Did Kazuma not have the demon killing sword on him?
Maybe?
I need to go back and see remake Hijikata's route. Because if that's the case, I might have to adjust some stuff. This one's shown in a strange, disquieting,
Disquieting, I think, yeah.
disquieting way. Almost as if it simply generated its own light rather than reflecting what hit it. I found myself unable to look away.
Killing you will erase the humiliation I suffered at your hand. You and your minions have been a thorn in my side ever since Kyo. Today I will have my revenge. Amagiri, you stay out of this. He's mine.
Amagiri sighed and gave a minuscule shrug.
As you wish.
He padded into a corner and folded his arms in silence. Oh no, he's in the timeout corner.
No!
No!
Huh. Guess the face wasn't enough, huh? Maybe if I take an arm this time, you'll get the message.
White washed across Hijikata-san's hair.
Ah!
He leapt across the room at Cosmo like a bullet from a gun. Kazuma blocked Hijikata-san's strike calmly, and their blades rattled against one another.
That was a yawn.
Mm-hmm. Then Kazuma pushed back and Hijikata-san was thrown across the room.
You're not getting away.
In the blink of an eye, he leapt after his opponent and whipped out his sword in a quick slash.
Gah!
Hijikata-san brought up the Kanasada at the last moment, catching Kazuma's strike before it could hit him.
You're slow. Your movements lack finesse. Don't tell me that killing humans has tired you out. I thought you said something the last time about being a demon.
Hijikata-san's sword began to shake. Kazuma's edged closer. It was right, though. Even with fury-enhanced speed and strength, Hijikata-san was slower than before, less focused.
Ah, I see. The sun's still up, isn't it? And you don't like the sun much, do you?
A cruel, arrogant grin spread across his face, filled with altogether too many teeth.
Well, don't worry. I won't go easy just because you're weak. After all, a samurai gives all that he can, no matter what. No matter the situation. That's your code, isn't it? Damn you!
Hijikata-san leapt backwards, but he wasn't fast enough. Kazuma's sword licked out.
Isn't that supposed to be flicked?
I think licked, like, as in... It just was faster.
Ugh.
The glowing blade traced a brilliant red line across his chest. Blood erupted and splattered to the floor as Hijikata-san dropped to his knees. The front of his shirt began to turn red, and drops of blood fell to the floor beneath him. But he'd be okay. It was a fury. Any moment now, the bleeding would stop.
Huh?
But it didn't. Agonizing seconds stretched on, and still blood flowed from Hijikata-san's chest.
That's the demon slaying blade right there.
There it is! The one that for some reason Kazuma has. It's never
What the
explained.
cool-
It's never explained how he got it, because this is supposed to be a sword in a different clan. Like an actual clan.
What is this? Discord did not like that.
Nope.
Ha 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 ha.
God damn it.
Discord, why?
Discord.
This would be so much better if we were in the same room.
I
Then-
know!
3 years, I know, 3 years.
Anyway.
What's the matter? Not healing like you should?
Kazuma's grin spread even wider, and he hefted his sword.
This sword is the Yatsusuna's Demon Slayer, used by the legendary Yorimitsu Minomata to kill the demon known as Sutendoji.
Yasusuna's Demon Slayer. If it does indeed exist, it was a sword forged by the master smith Yasusuna during the Heian period. Legend says that it killed Setsundoji, the ruler of all demons.
Okay, yeah, I am not colorblind, but what the fuck?
What?
Just, I had to, like, lean in close to read that.
It's because it's red. That is the thing. It's red on a yellow background, and really, they should have put a freaking,
Should have been blue. That would have made much more sense.
or a stroke, or white, something.
Right.
Yorimitsu Minamoto, a general from the Heian period. He is the hero in several folk tales, such as the defeat at Sutendoji at Oyama and the destruction of the Tsuchigumo. I'm gonna say Shutendoji might be the demon that is the ancestor of all demons? I want to say, at least in the context of Hakuoki. Because that probably explains the arms in Yase.
I'm actually looking it up. Mythical Oni, leader of Japan, according to legend, was killed by Minamoto no Raiko.
Hmm. But anyway, that's my theory for, at least for Hakuoki lore.
And it has been passed down through the Kazuma family for generations, but no one has ever thought to test it on a demon. This seems like an excellent chance to see what it could do. And what do you know? I get to use it to put down a fake demon.
Hijikata-san met Kazuma's gloating, smirking kind.
Must be getting pretty desperate if you're willing to grab your family's magic sword. Really need something like that to take on a fake demon?
He gave a taunting laugh, But Kazuma's grin didn't even twitch.
You humiliated me for the first time in my life. Nothing is too much if it'll send you to hell. Your abilities can't heal the wounds this sword gives you. You've become a fury in order to defeat me, but now that sacrifice meant nothing. Huh.
Hijikata-san prodded experimentally at the wound on his chest, then climbed slowly to his feet. Why would you prod it? Hijikata.
Why?
Why? Why?
So tell me if I got this right. All I have to do is avoid getting cut by that thing? Hell, before I became a fury, all I did was dodge swords. This'll be easy. So basically, in the immortal words of PK Warfare, just dodge. Simple.
Just dodge.
Simple. Don't get hit. Does your impudence know no bounds? Fine. I'll put your short-lived defiance to the test.
The Demon Slayer's blade flickered with blue-white light and almost seemed to shiver in concert with Kazuma's murderous intent. Suddenly the air seemed thick and oppressive. It was an effort just to breathe, and when I looked at Kazuma, my skin began to crawl. His sword dropped towards Hijikata-san.
Ugh.
He dodged the Demon Slayer, albeit only barely, and he brought his own sword up to strike back. But when the Kanesada arrived, Kazuma had simply disappeared. No, I realized he hadn't disappeared. He was simply moving too fast for the eye to see. Hijikata-san seemed to be able to keep up, but the margin for error was slim and getting slimmer. Kazuma dodged Hijikata-san's attack with ease, and his repose slammed into the other man's shoulder, tearing his shirt away to display a fresh, ragged wound.
Good. Your mind is working desperately, just trying to discover how you might kill me. Good. But I want to see more. I want to see your face when you finally realize that you cannot defeat me. That you will die. Yeah.
Blood poured from his wounds, but Hijikata-san brought his sword up in time to catch the Demon Slayer.
Yeah.
But he lost too much blood, and his body was beginning to weaken.
Cure wounds. Ah!
Kazuma overpowered him, and Hijikata-san was thrown back. Then, as if things hadn't gotten bad enough.
What the hell?
The white had disappeared from Hijikata-san's hair.
Reached your limit, I see. Even a false demon is better than this pathetic existence. You might as well be an insect. No, a worm.
Kazuma's maniacal laugh echoed through the room as he gloated over the nearly unconscious Hijikata-san.
Now I want to hear you cry, scream, beg me for your life, maggot. You and your filth have stood in my way ever since we met in Kyo. I will kill you and erase the Shinsengumi.
Hijikata-san's head twitched.
Erase the Shinsengumi. You.
He lost so much blood. I was amazed he was conscious, let alone lucid. But as I watched, his hands dug into the floor mat like claws, almost as if he were keeping himself up through sheer force of will.
He also pressed the wrong button. By saying he'll wipe out the Shinsengumi.
Oh, yeah.
After we left Kono-san, and the Shinsengumi fell to me. I felt like there was no way I could do that all by myself. I was just about ready to give it all up. But now, when you say you want to just erase everything we did, I'll be goddamned if I let you destroy the Shinsengumi.
Blood poured from his shoulder and his chest, but still he struggled to stand. The sight of him was so powerful, so tragic, that I couldn't bear to watch. If he didn't stop... if he didn't stop, he would die. I had to do something.
Stop Kazuma?
Stop Hijikata.
Well, I think it's been the opposite because of the route.
Hijikata-san, no! You're hurt badly! If you use your fury powers... His eyes flickered to me for a moment, and I could see that his mind was already made up. Then they were gone, and he glared at Kazuma.
You really think I care how much of my future I gotta burn to get this bastard? I can't let him kill me here. I've risked my life for the Shinsengumi. I can't let this bastard and his damn sword get the best of me now. You're practically dead already. What do you intend to do? This charade is pathetic.
Kazuma swung his sword again, almost lazily. Hijikata-san tried to lift up his kanesada in time to block, but his right hand refused to respond, and Kazuma's sword slammed right into his right shoulder. He let out a strangled scream as his arm twitched in pain, his sword tumbling from his grasp. Hijikata-san's clothes were soaked in blood, and his skin was the color of paper. Only rage and pure willpower kept him upright, but even they were beginning to waver.
I had hoped you might give me a little more entertainment. But I suppose it's time for me to say goodbye now. It's a shame you don't have enough energy to talk. I miss that dry wit.
Hijikata-san's shoulders shuddered with each labored breath, but still he glared at Kazuma.
What's the matter? Can't hold your sword anymore. Where's that samurai spirit?
He could barely even breathe, but still Hijikata-san raised his sword towards Kazuma. The tip of the blade dipped and waved, and blood poured from his wounds, but still he stood. Please, I beg, just stop. Don't die. Just looking at him was enough to make me want to scream. Kazuma lifted that cruel sword, slick with Hijikata-san's blood, and smiled.
Oh, how I've waited for this moment. At last, I could kill you with my own hands and erase the humiliation you gave me.
Then suddenly an ear-splitting detonation tore through the building. The wood of the castle creaked and moaned, and I could smell something burning.
What's this?
Suddenly distracted, Kazuma flicked his gaze around the room, looking for the source of the interruption.
Fire! Fire! Those cowardly sons of bitches set the damn castle on fire when they ran! We're dead if it catches us! Come on! We have to get out of here!
The fire spread quickly, and in mere moments the roar of it was deafening. Flames began to lick at the walls of the banquet hall.
Create or destroy water, create water.
Black smoke poured into the room, rough and irritating in my throat. The flames leapt to the dry wood and paper of the door, and then to the flammable mats covering the floor. Almost immediately, the room was plunged into nigh unbearable heat, but neither Hijikata-san nor Kazuma lowered his sword. Both men were waiting for a chance to strike. If either made even the smallest wrong move, he would be cut to ribbons by the other. Tension filled the air until it was thick as the acid smoke. With a crackling roar and the moan of tortured wood, a section of ceiling collapsed to the floor between them.
Damn it. This place is coming apart. If I stay any longer, I'll be in danger as well.
He shoved the demon slayer back into its scabbard angrily and glared across the flaming wreckage at Hijikata-san.
Hiji, whatever your name is, I'll let you go this time. We'll finish this duel another day. And on that day, I will finish what we started here. You will die.
With one last grotesque, inhuman smile, Kazuma disappeared.
Alright, so where's Amagiri?
I don't know. I think he left. Maybe. Hijikata-san, are you alright? I ran to him. His face was twisted in pain, and his skin looked like wax. Practically forgotten until now. Never mind. Amagiri walked towards us from his corner, seemingly unconcerned with the flames around him. Amagiri?
Amagiri is gonna be a Giga Chat here. The demon clans no longer intend to involve themselves in your governable squabbles.
Hijikata-san looked up at him confused. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper.
Why? We owed our favors to the Satsuma domain. We feel that we have now repaid those favors. Besides, even you must know that the Shogun will soon fall, regardless of whatever my kin and I do to speed that fall.
His face curled up in a bitter smile.
Yeah. And yet you intend to remain aboard this sinking ship? The Tokugawa never gave your Shinigami the recognition it so desired, and betrayed you when you needed them most. Why do you remain loyal?
The truth of Amagiri's words drove a knife into Hijikata-san's heart, and I saw his face fall. He replied with a sad smile.
Well, a samurai fights for their lord, no matter what, right? What I'm fighting for now isn't Yoshinobu, or Edo Castle, or any of those cowards that call themselves the Shogunate's ministers. What we're fighting for now is the Shogunate in here. In our hearts. And the Shinsengumi that we made to protect that. It's not easy, not by a long shot, but I'd feel like a real bastard if I died before Kondo comes back.
Amagiri had closed his eyes while Hijikata-san spoke. Now he stood silent for a moment, then slowly opened them.
If Kazuma chooses to involve himself with either of you again, he will have destroyed the mortal code that binds all of our kind. He will no longer have support of the clans. He will be on his own. I imagine this will be of little concern to him, but I ask you to bear in mind that when he next assaults you, that he is not doing so at the behest of the demon clans. He is, I fear, your problem now.
Then Amagiri turned and disappeared.
Into the fire and flames.
Just go there like that. At last, Hijikata-san collapsed, although from relief or simple exhaustion, I couldn't tell. Hijikata-san, are you okay? But he had passed out. No matter how much I shook him or cried his name, he refused to open his eyes.
Oh, that's you.
That's me. The fire had grown more intense, and I was beginning to sweat in earnest. If we didn't get out, and soon, we would both burn to death. But how could I move Hijikata-san? He was far too heavy for me to carry on my own.
Commander! Yukimura-kun! Where are you?
From down the hall came Shimada-san's voice. In that moment, it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever heard. Shimada-san! We're over here! Hijikata-san is... Moments later, Shimada burst through the door, scattering sparks and burning fragments across the room. That's an entrance, Shimada.
Commander? Hang on. I'll get you out of here.
He just passed out a minute ago, but he's lost a lot of blood. If he doesn't get treated soon, he'll...
Right. Okay, I'll carry him. You'll have to follow behind me. Try not to inhale too much of this smoke.
Without even waiting for my reply, Shimada-san hefted Hijikata-san onto his back and set off at a jog. Okay. In the end, it didn't matter. The castle that Hijikata-san had risked his own life to take was taken back by the Imperial Army only 4 days later, and with nearly 20,000 soldiers from the Satsuma, Choshu, Ogaki, and Tottori domains. Ogaki domain, allied with the shogunate at the Battle of Toba-Fushimi, but eventually changed sides and spearheaded the imperial attack. Tottori domain. Although their lord was the older brother of Shogun Yoshinobu Tokugawa, they assisted the Imperial Army during the Battle of Toba-Fushimi and many subsequent battles.
If they assassinated the Imperial Army, what are we talking about?
Shush. I said assisted. I corrected myself. But also, they just betrayed their lord?
Yeah, I guess. Hi, Mage.
Hi. Alright, give me a second.
I had mine right next to my microphone.
Well, I needed to collect the things for the delivery.
Oh, yeah. Still in the same place, I betcha.
Yep. I have zero clue what has happened to this thing, but we'll find out.
Maybe they're doing it on purpose so that way it just unexpectedly shows up at your door and you're like, what the fuck?
Nah, if it unexpectedly appears at my door, it'll be stolen.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Wait, was that everything? Yes, okay.
It was just 2 entries.
I know. After the battle, Otori and the rest of his soldiers set out for Aizu. Hijikata-san had miraculously survived his ordeal, but he was by no means recovered. He drifted in and out of consciousness for days, hovering at death's door, and was eventually sent away from the front to Nico so he could recover.
On the front to Cat? Or is that supposed to be Neko?
No, Nico. Neko is Cat. Nico is something else.
Okay.
Nico is the name of a city, village, whatever you want to call it. Since we'd arrived in Nico, I'd busied myself doing my best to take care of him. As the Fury and most normal medication had little to no effect on him, most of my nursing therefore consisted of fervently hoping that his natural strength and tenacity would bring him through. Fortunately, my prayers seemed to pay off, and in time his wounds began to heal, although those made by Cosmos, Demon Slayer, did not so easily or quickly. I found myself thinking back to the Battle of Utsunomiya. After watching Hijikata-san in battle, the same soldiers who had been too frightened to fight just minutes before had run to cross swords with the enemy. Afterwards, they had told him that it was an honor to fight alongside the Shinsengumi, for they were true samurai. Hijikata-san, you are the core of the Shinsengumi. Without you, there is no Shinsengumi. So please, you can't die. Several days later, I walked into Hijikata-san's room to change his bandage, and was brought up shortly by what I saw. Hijikata-san? What are you doing? He had recovered some, enough to move and speak without pain, but he was still confined to his bed. Or at least he was supposed to be.
Instead, he's making haikus.
When I said you were healthy enough to get up, I didn't mean you were healthy enough to work.
It'll only take a minute. I'm going back to bed as soon as I finish this.
His voice was as dismissive as it had always been. He flicked a hand in my direction as if to brush me off. Rude.
Very.
You nearly died. You need to rest.
Died? Me? Huh. That was nothing. 'Tis barely a scratch. Just a flesh wound.
God damn it.
Your arm is off. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. Look.
Really?
Why not?
Barely a scratch? Do you know how long I've been taking care of you? He continued to write, not even bothering to look up.
Fine. Fine.
I'd hoped for a little more contrition, bleh. But it appeared I was going to have to take what I could get. Well, at least let me put this on you. You're going to catch a chill. As I spoke, I draped his old jacket across his shoulders.
As if I'd listen to you. As if you'd listen if I didn't let you.
I'm glad to see you understand how this works. Now, as soon as you finish that, you're going straight back into bed. And don't even think about working behind my back. I've got my eye on you.
I've got my sights on you.
Jesus Christ. At last, Hijikata-san turned and looked at me, his face quirked in a small, bitter smile.
Alright, fine. Sorry for putting you through all that trouble.
He was more polite than I expected. Huh? Had I heard wrong? I stared back at him intently.
Guess I should be thanking you and Shimada-san, huh? Well, I appreciate what you did. Thanks.
Mage, what? Sadly, I died, but I live.
Did you die? Sadly, yes. But I lived. We got all sorts of movie references in game tonight, huh?
Do you think I remember everything?
That was from one of the Ice Age movies.
Oh, God. Oh, shit, you're right! You're right! That's from the third one, isn't it?
It's whenever they get the one-eyed one.
I think it's the third one.
I don't know. I stopped watching after 2.
Because the third one, I think, is when they have the baby.
Dawn of the Dinosaurs, I think is what it was.
Oh, God. Anyway.
And then, of course, we got the legendary Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Yeah, I thought that was one of them.
Yes, it was.
Hijikata-san's thank was rarely unaccompanied by cynicism, sarcasm, or outright derision. But this... what had come over him? He was strangely genuine.
Something wrong? What? Did I say something funny?
Oh, no, it's not that. It was more that I'd never seen Hijikata-san act so nice. Eh?
He did something.
Oh, I see. Wee. Later that night.
He's back at it.
Nope.
So the commander's really back on his feet? I've also heard that he I also heard he'd improved, so I thought I'd stop by and pay him a visit.
Good evening, Otori-san, Shimada-san. Hijikata-san is over. Before I could even finish, Shimada dashed past me to Hijikata-san's side.
I'm so glad you're all right, sir. For a while there, I didn't know what might happen, if what was going to happen.
Shimada-san's eyes began to tear up and he blinked rapidly to clear them.
Come on, don't give me that. You really think I'd die so easily? You're right. You'll never die, no matter what happens.
He rubbed his hand across his face awkwardly, trying to brush away the tears that refused to stop forming. Shimada!
We need a drawing of this.
Oh my god. Shimada needs his own route.
Yes.
As one of the survivors, he needs his own route.
Yeah. Hijikata-san, I'm gonna be honest with you.
Oh boy, here we go, Otori.
You fought like a demon back at Usunomiya. Morale is through the roof. The whole army won't stop talking about you. But your actions were dangerous and idiotic. You are a commanding officer, not a soldier. You don't belong on the front lines. Silence, Corporal! Otori, he's only just recovered. Don't you think you're being a little harsh? No. I am going to give him a piece of my mind. I won't let this slide. Listen to me, Hijikata-san. Westernizing our troops isn't just about giving them guns and new clothes. We have to change how we think about war. We have to learn new tactics. The commander charging at the front of the army does not show that we are improving our strategy. If the soldiers are at the hands and the feet, then their commanding officer is the head. And if the head is removed, then it doesn't matter how much of the body remains, the war will be lost.
I did not hear lost.
Wow.
Yeah.
If the soldiers are the hands and feet, then their commanding officer is the head. If the head is removed, it doesn't matter how much of the body remains, the war will be lost.
Hijikata-san's eyes went wide. Otori continued oblivious, but I knew what Hijikata-san was thinking.
What are you doing, Commander? You are the mind of the Shinzigumi. We are your arms and legs. Why are you running off to face the enemy alone? We gotta remember these guns are smoothbore and have really long reload times, so we should line up as many people so the next person in line will be ready to shoot by the time they get to the front.
Oh my
Mage,
God,
why? If you lose an arm or a leg, you can always replace it. But if you lose the head, then you lose everything.
Excuse me for a second. Yamazaki!
Oh.
My boy! My best boy! Also, Mage, Jesus.
I mean, he's right, but it's just the whole 6 Russians, 1 gun thing from World War II.
The day Hijikata-san had become a fury, Yamazaki-san had said very nearly the same words to him.
Almost feels like Yamazaki's come back to yell at me, huh?
His words were to himself, and there was a faraway look in his eyes. Otori frowned, confused.
Hijikata-san, what's so funny? What's so funny?
Sorry, I'm reading mages. No, they all had guns. It was to deal with the fact that the reload took forever. Yeah! Also depends which side you were on. One side had effectively better reload times than the others. Which is the situation that we're facing right now at this very moment.
Yeah.
The Shogunate had older guns, which reloaded slower, while the Imperial Army had much faster Western guns. Which, again, I have Haruka have a take on this and say they're all fucking hypocrites.
This is serious. Don't you understand how worried I was about you? How worried the whole army was about you?
For a few moments, he simply stared at Otori-san. Normally, he would have fired back with sarcasm or perhaps outright insults if he was in a bad enough mood. But this...
Say whatever you want. It won't change my mind.
It wasn't easy to seem threatening around someone like Hijikata-san, but he tried. Oh, Otori tried, alright.
You're right, Otori. Sorry for worrying you.
He followed his surprisingly genuine apology with a similarly surprising bow.
What?
Otori-san had clearly prepared himself for a variety of reactions for Hijikata-san, but this had apparently not been one of them. I am not surprised that it was not one of the reactions.
Yeah, but Otori never saw it coming. It was the last surprise.
God damn it. For several moments, he simply stood there, too flabbergasted to speak.
My apologies to you too, Shimada. I heard you had to carry me all the way here. Oh no, it was anything for you, sir.
Shimada-san seemed just as confused as Otori by Hijikata-san's sudden change. I didn't understand it either, but there was no denying that he was different. And thus we enter chapter 8.
Which is the final chapter.
No, it's not. Hi, Mark.
Thanks, Sap. He said, he waved.
Hijikata has 9 chapters.
Oh, so this is the penultimate chapter. It's spoiler alert. It's still in the same place. Where is it at exactly then?
Okay, so it says, California. It's waiting to get to the distribution center.
Yeah, 1 is an anomaly, 2 is a trend. It's something I learned while playing Star Wars Republic Commando.
Yes, but what?
He said, you don't know. I do know. 1 is an anomaly, 2 is a trend.
Anyway, spring ended and summer began. The battle between the old government forces and the Imperial Army moved to Aizu. The rumors said that the fighting was intense. Although he hadn't healed completely, Hijikata-san decided to leave Nikko as soon as he was well enough to march. The trip was long on foot, but without any problems. Eventually, we arrived at Shirakawa Castle, one of the main rally points for our troops.
See, this is good. This is good. Having a black background with red text like that. Perfect.
I can read it! Shirakawa Castle, the location of a fierce encounter during the Battle of Aizu, which took place early in the Boshin War. This is early? Well, yeah, I guess actually, yeah. Also, Shirakawa. Every time I hear that word, I just think of Shirakawa Go. Which, if you don't know, is the village that's Hinamizawa is based off of. At last, we had caught up with the main body of the Shinsengumi. Saito-san was there to greet us the moment we arrived at the castle.
Oh, Chief Hijikata, I'm grateful to see you're alive.
As good as it was to see Saito-san, he seemed somewhat the worse for wear. We're about to see why in a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Battle after pitched battle had taken its toll on his body.
Glad to hear you're all right, too. I heard you did well.
Then he frowned and rubbed his hand on at his forehead.
But if you could just stop calling me Chief.
He looked Saito-san straight in the eye.
I'm not the chief, and God's willing I'll never be. I'd be terrible. Kondo-san is the only chief at the Shinzengumi.
Saito-san met his gaze without blinking.
I do not intend to correct myself. It is still your job to unify the Shinzengumi.
There was something odd about Saito-san's tone. Hijikata-san seemed to sense it too, and I could see him preparing to ask when Saito-san continued, his voice calm and measured.
Chief Kondo-san has passed away. What? Oh.
What? Hijikata-san only stared at Saito-san, his eyes suddenly wide. I didn't want to believe what I just heard was true. Perhaps Saito-san had been confused.
The only person who can rise to the position of chief is you, Hijikata-san.
He was qualified, certainly, both by position and action. But is Kondo-san really? My voice shook as I spoke. How could he? Goodbye, car that went vroom. Rude. Rude car. How could he say such a thing and then just move on? If Kondo-san was really dead, didn't that deserve a moment or two?
Kondo-san is...
He glanced over at Hijikata-san, his eyes asking whether or not that he should continue.
Tell me what happened, Saito.
His voice was clipped and tight. Saito-san held his gaze for a moment longer, then nodded.
We have been told that at the end of April, Chief Kondo-san was beheaded at the Itabashi execution site.
Itabashi! The location of the headquarters of the Imperial forces during their campaign in northeastern Japan. It is, if I remember, probably on the outskirts of Edo? I could be wrong. I swallowed. He hadn't even been given the chance to retain his honor and take his own life. He's simply been beheaded, like a common criminal. Perhaps Hijikata-san had expected that.
Didn't even let him kill himself.
His voice was controlled and unsurprised, but deep within his eyes, I could see a bottomless, yawning despair. Whatever facade he might erect, Kondo-san's death had been a blow straight to his heart. He would not recover from it easily. Later that night, Heisuke and Sanan-san came to visit Hijikata-san.
Hey!
As members of the Fury Corps, they had been resting when we arrived in the afternoon.
Your arrival at the castle has the castle in something of an uproar. It woke me somewhat earlier than usual.
Sanan-san's smile was unreadable, but Heisuke's emotions were not so difficult to determine, because it's Heisuke.
Yeah. I heard you got hurt pretty bad, Hijikata. Didn't think we would see you again so soon. Well, I couldn't just sit on my ass once I heard there was battles happening all over the place.
He sounded calm and relaxed enough, but I knew he wasn't that way on the inside. I felt depressed ever since we learned that Kondo-san had passed away, but that was nothing compared to what Hijikata-san had to be feeling.
We should be on our way then. Our work begins at night, after all.
Heisuke nodded. They were halfway to the door when Hijikata-san spoke.
Oh yeah. Heisuke, you think you could tell Saito to come by? Oh, sure. I'll do that right now.
He cocked an eyebrow in question, but when no further explanation seemed forthcoming, he simply nodded.
Hijikata-san, you only just got here. You really should rest tonight.
He gave Hijikata-san a quick grin, then turned and left. With Heisuke and Sanan-san gone, the room fell into a somewhat awkward silence. Hijikata-san hadn't told me to leave, but it seemed unlikely that he would start talking to me either. I'd opened my mouth to speak in a desperate attempt to break the silence when the door slid open and Saito-san stepped in. Without even waiting for him to sit, Hijikata-san began to speak.
From now on, I will be commanding from the front line.
What? If we were to be fighting on the front line, the violence would be intense. Hijikata-san still hadn't fully healed. Was he healthy enough to put himself in that kind of danger?
Do you intend to die in battle?
Saito-san's face betrayed no emotion.
No, I won't go out that easily. You've been out there. Only right for the chief to take that burden off you, right?
The chief heading to the front line would raise morale. That was certain, but Hijikata-san was the core of the Shinsengumi. If he died, they would collapse.
You raise an excellent point, sir. If you mean to take my place, however...
The air suddenly felt thick as Saito-san's hand fell on his sword.
Boys, I must why? I must first ask that you defeat me. If you cannot best me, then only death awaits you on the front lines.
Saito-san!
Getting a little full of yourself without me around to put you in your place?
His mouth twisted into a grin as his sword slid from its scabbard. Hijikata-san, not you too! They didn't mean to kill one another, of course, but... Please, stop this! You're friends! You shouldn't be fighting each other! Hijikata-san's eyes turned to me, and they were as cold as ice.
You, shut up and stay out of this.
Hijikata-san... He wasn't going to listen to me. That much was clear. All I could do was be silent and watch. They stood for several long seconds unmoving. Then, in the same moment, they both exploded into motion. Swords collided. They struggled for a moment, swords grinding until...
What?
Hijikata-san was thrown back to sprawl across the floor. Even only partially healed, he still had far greater strength than a human, and he wasn't the sort of person to have gone easy on Saito-san.
Oh, Saito, don't tell me. This war is not so easy that you might rush to the front line without your full strength.
Saito-san...
Ah,
The red eyes, the white hair.
Saito, why?
There was no doubt that Saito-san was a fury. Did you drink the water of life?
Do not worry yourself about with me. I made my own decision.
I didn't know what to say.
Yeah, I do know what to say. I need to yawn.
I need water, actually.
Somebody's not keeping up on their duties for this.
Actually, No, yeah, it's been 12 minutes.
Yeah.
On break, I might actually need to make tea. It's like one side of my throat is kind of hurting.
Oh no.
Just a little bit.
Okay.
I didn't know what to say. The simple fact that Saito-san had become a fury said more about the battles he'd been fighting than words ever could.
I understand why it is that you wish to fight. That is why I cannot allow you to.
There was a calm finality to Saito-san's voice as he slid his sword back into its scabbard.
Perhaps you would be able to forget your pain in the midst of battle. But I cannot afford to let you do that. You cannot be permitted to turn a blind eye to our problems.
Hijikata-san slowly put his own sword away, then stood silently, looking into Saito-san's eyes.
Because I'm the chief now. Because you're the only one. Because you're the one who can unify the Shinsengumi.
Saito-san sighed.
Leave the front line to us. You, Hijikata-san, should remain here and plan out our strategies.
Hang on. Hijikata-san's eyes narrowed.
Fine. Front line is yours until my wounds heal. Arigato.
Then he turned to face me. Yes?
I leave Hichikata-san in your care. Don't let him out of your sight until he's healthy again.
Right. I nodded and gave Saito-san what I hoped was a reassuring smile. He inclined his head to me, turned to Hichikata-san to bow, and then left. As soon as he was gone, Hichikata-san's face darkened and his brows drew closer together.
So Saito thinks I need a babysitter, huh?
He's just worried about you. That's all. I didn't really know how effective of a, babysitter I could be, but Saito-san had put his trust in me. I had to at least give it my best shot. I know you're anxious to get back into battle, but you need to rest, alright? He gave a bitter laugh, then suddenly stopped. Welcome to round 4?
Yeah, I think it's round 4.
He clapped a hand to his stomach in pain. Hijikata-san? He started to shake, and his hair and eyes changed color. The bloodlust...
Give me some blood!
The bloodlust had taken hold of him, and he began to moan in pain. And yes, the answer is, give him blood.
Call the Red Cross!
I don't... Wait, does that exist at this point?
No, I don't think it exists. Well, wait a minute. Keep going.
You're gonna look it up, aren't you?
Keep going.
Hijikata-san, I moved toward him, and I saw in his eyes that he already understood. I tugged at my collar, loosening it like I'd done before. He bent towards me, and I felt a sharp pain in my neck.
1881.
Ooh. Close, but not close enough.
May 21st, 1881.
Huh. I stayed as still as I could. Thanks, Mark.
Okay, there it is.
Someone did it. Well, I drink my water here. Oh, wait, no. Shit. Fuck. Rewind. I was too used to SSL. Here.
Hey.
I mean...
Y'all thirsty? Oh.
His hot breath panted across my neck, but as he drank it slowly, he began to calm and I felt relief wash over me. If I could take away even a little of his pain this way, then I wanted to do so. Eventually, he pulled back. There was pain on his face, but not from the bloodlust.
This can't go on forever.
Huh? His mouth twitched up into a sour half-smile.
You, me, this war, everything.
Hijikata-san? His eyes were distant, and he didn't even seem to hear me. I couldn't find the words to describe it, but something felt strange, wrong. By the time Hijikata-san's injuries had fully healed, it was nearly mid-August.
Wait, how far did we go?
So they got to Aizu somewhere in summer.
So it was like June?
Maybe. Battle still raged across the Aizu domain, but little by little the advantage seemed to be moving to the Imperial Army. Our troops were being driven into a corner. Then one day, Shimada-san burst into the room, gasping for breath.
I've got news from Otori.
Immediately, all eyes were on him. News from Otori meant that something serious had happened.
He said we're going to mount a counterattack in Sendai.
Sendai Domain, a large and influential domain in the northeast.
Alright, we'll catch you a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, they must have just got done over there, so he's heading home. It'll be about half an hour or so.
Alright. Anyway, a large and influential domain in the northeast, governed by Yoshikuni Date, an opposition daimyo, leader of the Northern Alliance. Sendai was the leader of the Northern Alliance. Northern Alliance! The military and political coalition between the Mutsu, Dewa, and Echigo domains, formed with the intent of supporting the Aizu and Jonai domains and getting them pardoned as enemies of the imperial government. In other words, they were allies to the Aizu, as well as the troops loyal to the former shogunate. Unfortunately, it was only a matter of time before the Aizu men on the front line fell to the imperial army, so the leaders of our army had decided to gather all their forces in Sendai to stage a strong counterattack.
Our navy has already escaped Edo and headed north via ship. Ballsy plan he's got there.
He smiled.
Might as well bet all our men on one big counterattack instead of waiting for them to get hacked to pieces, huh?
Excitement glittered in Hijikata-san's eyes. Apparently, he approved of Otori-san's plan.
Then I will go to Sendai first. We should establish a stronghold for when the main body of men arrives.
You? True, someone had to go first, at the very least to establish a base for the Shinsengumi. We'd also likely need to pay our respects to the leaders of the Northern Alliance. It just seems a little dangerous to have our representative be someone from the Fury Corps. Sanan-san gave me a smile.
I'm from Sendai, you know. I have some connections there. I think I would be the best choice for our advanced guards, so to speak.
When he continued, it was in a voice barely above a whisper.
There's something else that has been bothering me as well.
Bothering you? He nodded and smiled, but it seemed that was all he'd tell me. What could be bothering him?
Family, maybe? But Sanan-san, you're supposed to be dead, right? It seems like that could be an issue.
Heisuke was right. When Sanan-san drank the water of life and became a fury, the Shinsengumi had announced to the world that he was dead. But Sana-san only continued smiling.
A minor detail. Easily dealt with.
True, Sana-san had something of a silver tongue. No shit.
You goddamn snake! There.
I had no doubt he could talk his way out of awkward questions about his death. Meh.
Well, in that case, Sana-san is probably the best choice.
He didn't seem entirely comfortable with it, but there was no denying the intelligence of Sana-san's argument.
No, the Fury Core isn't cut out for that. You still can't stand to be up during the day.
Ichikata-san himself was proof that wasn't entirely true, and his refusal therefore seemed somewhat half-hearted.
It's difficult, certainly, but not impossible. I don't see any reason to just follow behind the rest of the army, and I'd be glad to push myself for this.
I didn't doubt his ability to do what he said, but I did question the validity of his motives. No, please, no. Hijikata-san and Sana-san stared at one another, silent.
Ah, there's more to his message.
He coughed awkwardly.
Otori will be leading Denshu Company to Bonari Pass in hopes of stopping the enemy advance. I believe he... Wait, did you read that?
Oh, wait, fuck. Rewind. We love the rewind button.
Otori will be leading Denshu Company to Bonari Pass in hopes of stopping the enemy advance.
Bonari Pass. The Imperial Army marched through their forces through this pass to reach Aizu Wakamatsu Castle. I
believe he means to buy time so that our allies can head towards Sendai, but... Isn't Bonari Pass the front line right now?
Heisuke's brows drew together.
I understand what Otori's trying to do, but I don't think it's going to be that easy to buy time.
I shared Heisuke's concerns. Could Otori's troops really hold back the far more powerful Imperial Army?
If we want Otori to come back alive, we need to send some reinforcements with him to Bonari Pass.
He frowned.
I disagree. If we are to win at Sendai, we must arrive there at full strength, fresh and ready for battle. But if we don't send someone to reinforce him at the pass, we're just abandoning Aizu to the Imperial Army.
Hijikata-san said nothing. The Shinsengumi owed much to the Aizu domain, but if he was to be victorious in Sendai, then the Shinsengumi had to depart. All of it. It was not an easy decision to make.
I will remain here with the Aizu.
What? Until that moment, Saito-san had been silent. When he spoke, I almost jumped.
When my life ends, I want to be able to look back on it and say that I was true to myself and fought for my beliefs. Without the patronage of the Aizu domain, the Shinsengumi would never have become what it is. I cannot abandon them now and keep my honor. I wish to stand with them until the very end comes to claim us both.
For once, it seems Saito-san's personal convictions were not entirely in line with the Shinsengumi's. He spoke with the same calm conviction as always. It was clear he would not be swayed.
I will go to Bonari Pass. Hichikato-san, please take the rest of our men to Sendai. Saito, you...
Hichikata-san had barely opened his mouth before Sanan-san cut him off.
Saito. Then I will go. Then I'll go prepared to depart. The early bird gets the worm, yes?
Before giving Hijikata-san a chance to reply, he stood and left the room. Heisuke didn't seem particularly happy about how things had turned out, but after a moment of furious thought, he stood up as well.
Well, I guess I'll head out with Sonnen. Don't really want to let him out of my sight, you know?
He gave a sort of lopsided grin.
That's probably smart.
Hijikata-san's face was grim. Be careful, Heisuke. Be careful,
God
Heisuke.
damn it. Hey, it's me!
He gave a smile and wink and then dashed out the door and after San-san. Heisuke, I'm not ready for this chapter. God.
I know, but he had that bit of Han Solo right there. It's like, hey, it's me.
It's Heisuke.
And then immediately after Han says that, he steps on a twig, alerting some scout troopers to him. Shimada, I need you to go tell Otori and the Aizu what we've decided. Understood, sir. I'll be off as soon as I can.
He bowed and left. Saito-san turned once again to face Hijikata-san. Whether or not he'd been waiting until the room emptied to do so, I wasn't sure.
Hijikata-san, please survive.
His eyes were serious.
In the Shinsengumi, you and Kondo have laid out the path of the true samurai.
Even when they were slandered and despised by the people of Kyo, or when the shogunate had begun to capitulate to the imperial army, they had never bent, never compromised what they stood for.
Our standard of truth is a banner for all true warriors. The Shinsengumi represents all samurai. We lead the way.
In every warrior's soul was honor, dedication, and loyalty. In the Shinsengumi, those values were made flesh. There could be no retreat. Saito-san and Hijikata-san looked at one another silently for a moment.
As the man that made the Shinsengumi into what has become, it must be your duty, Hijikata-san, to carry that standard.
Hijikata-san sighed and flashed a bitter smile at his friend.
You make it sound so easy.
His smile widened.
I'll promise you this, though. I'll stick around till either the Shinsengumi's dead, or I am.
Saito-san bowed.
Thank you. Arigato, Chief.
Then he turned to me.
I leave Hijikata-san in your care.
So few words, but with such great emotion behind them. Right. We'll be fine. I nodded. Which...
I'll never leave his side.
He wouldn't die even if you killed him.
What? That's weird.
After all, I grinned. I don't think Hijikata-san could die even if someone killed him.
Did you die? Sadly, yes, but I lived.
Saito-san's eyes widened in surprise. I've seen him on the verge of death lots of times, but he always pulls through. Don't worry about him. He'll fight with the Shinsengumi forever. So... I set my jaw and looked Saito-san straight in the eye. Please don't die, Saito-san. The battle at Bonari Pass was sure to be an intense one. Many men would lose their lives. But there was a tremendous difference between going into battle prepared to die and going into battle expecting to die.
I won't die even if I get killed. That's quite a statement, kid.
He let out a quiet snort of laughter.
Kind of like what I did.
Yeah.
If you've got time to worry about me, maybe you ought to worry about yourself too, Saito.
He said it as a joke, but there was no mistaking the underlying sincerity. Soto-san looked at us both for a moment, then his face wrinkled in a soft smile.
I won't die easily either. After all, I will be fighting in the name of the Shinsengumi.
He turned his eyes to me.
Arigato for your kind gesture.
I accompanied Hijikata-san to Sendai. Concerned about Saito-san, Hijikata-san left Shimada with him in Aizu. Perhaps the two of them would be able to overcome dangers that Saito-san would have been unable to alone. Leaving Saito-san and Shimada-san turned out to be much more difficult than I had imagined. I spent so much time with them. All I could do was pray that they would survive, and that we would meet again someday. As September began, the cold autumn wind blew down on the main body of the Shinsengumi as they arrived in Sendai.
This is a good time to save.
This is a good time to save!
And go get tea.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to go do a BRB.
Alright, folks, we'll be right back.
The BRB is on this house in whatever you want to call it.
Above your head, too.
Okay, yes. BRB. Hello.
Hi.
I have a tea.
Yay.
It's...
I remembered something from DBZA now.
Oh no, what?
Pretty much that nearly every single character that you interact with in this game ends with, and then he died too.
Thanks, mate. I was
Yes,
about to
thanks.
actually drink my tea.
You act like you're the only one suffering, but I believe that Trunks has some stories for you, and I can assume they all end with, and then he died too. I can safely assume that most of the characters you interact with this story are just they all end the same, and then he died too. Just an observation I've made.
Yeah, just an observation.
Alright, get rid of BRB.
Hold on, I'm drinking hot tea.
Oh, it's hot tea. Okay.
The fuck else kind of tea would I drink with a throat that hurts a bit? Certainly not cold. Also, it hasn't moved.
Damn it.
I mean, it's like 10. I don't think it's gonna move tonight.
No, it won't. It won't.
But it's fun to check.
But wait, so what's it still doing there? Waiting?
It's trying to get to the actual shipping company, but I don't know. Don't know what's happened to it.
Anyways, now I'll get rid of BRB.
Okay, now I'll get rid of it. It's gone!
Hey.
As September began, the cold autumn wind blew down on the main body of the Shinsengumi as they arrived in Sendai. The trip had been easy enough, but upon our arrival, we encountered a new problem. Sanan-san and the Fury Corps were nowhere to be found. Heskett, too, was
Incommunicado.
Incommunicado, really?
Yeah.
Okay. From the villagers in Sendai, we heard disturbing rumors that murder had been on the rise in recent days.
Oh no.
We scarcely wanted to think about it, but it hardly seemed like it could be coincidence. Upon reaching Sendai Castle, we were greeted by a man in Western garb. As soon as he laid eyes on Hijikata-san, his face split in a grin.
Long time no see, Hijikata. Glad to see you're doing well, Enomoto.
The man was Takeaki Enomoto. He had been the Shogunate Navy's second in command. When Edo had surrendered to the Imperial Army without a fight, he had taken his flagship, Kaiomaru, captured 8 more battleships, and left. Kaiomaru, the flagship of the Shogunate Navy.
He also looks like Escanor from Seven Deadly Sins.
Is it the mustache?
Well, it's not just the mustache, it's also his hair.
Oh. Okay.
Like, it's very well clean kept like that.
He'd taken his new fleet to Sendai and arrived before we had.
Have you already heard about Kondo-san?
Hijikata-san only nodded.
I apologize to have been unable to help. Our country has lost a truly great man.
Even I could tell that Enomoto's grief was real. It was a small moment, perhaps, but it was easy to see from it that Enomoto was a good man.
You would have been happy to hear you say that.
Hijikata-san gave a short, melancholy laugh, but his eyes were peaceful.
But he wouldn't want us to stand around crying about him. He'd want us to get to work. So, can you give me a rundown of the situation in Sendai?
Enomoto gave him a bitter smile.
You're right, Hijikata-san. Unfortunately, the news isn't very good.
I felt a knot form in the pit of my stomach.
To begin with, there's something wrong at Sendai Castle. I'm not sure what they're thinking, but I've requested an audience, but I haven't received a response.
To ignore an official request was an odd response for someone like Inamoto to receive from a domain.
There's a suspicious group of men running around Sendai. Well, there are rumors at least.
Suspicious? How?
Well, there have been more murders here lately. And the rumors say that some of the murderers ran back to the castle.
Suspicious men running amok in Sendai, possibly murdering civilians. Sanan-san and the Fury Corps unreachable. It wasn't difficult to put two and two together. Hijikata-san and I looked at one another. There was no doubt that we were thinking the same thing.
Whatever the case, if this continues, we won't be able to take action. Perhaps if we could arrest these murderers and restore peace in the area. Inamoto, think you could maybe lead the murders to me?
Enomoto opened his mouth to protest, but something in Hijikata-san's gaze made him change his mind, and he closed his mouth again thoughtfully.
Alright, I'll leave this one to you. No more questions from me.
I spoke up just as Enomoto turned to go. There was something I had to ask. Have you heard anything about Okita-san? Enomoto had been in Edo long after we left. Perhaps... But he shook his head.
Okita-san. One of the incredible Shinsengumi captains, right? Unfortunately, no, I haven't heard anything.
Oh. Well, thank you anyway.
Take a drink!
Take a drink. I'ma take a sippy of tea. Okay, 2 sippies, but still.
No, my apologies that I didn't have better news for you.
I bowed politely, and he smiled and walked away. Enomoto was a kind, candid man. I had a feeling he was well liked by his men, and he seemed to get along well with Hijikata-san. I confess I felt rather relieved. But not entirely, however. The dark cloud above our heads had merely lightened, not lifted. Do you think Sanan-san is the one killing people? Hijikata-san's face was drawn.
Can't say. You heard the same things I did. There's no way to know for sure, but... if he is, I'll have to kill him.
Hijikata-san. His mouth tightened into a line.
He got pretty freaked out when he heard that there's about where our Fury's power comes from. Might be he's pretty desperate right now. Maybe crazy.
True. It certainly seemed likely that Sanan-san was responsible for the murders, but I hoped with all my heart that he wasn't. If the truth turned out to be different, then I didn't doubt Hijikata-san would kill him without hesitation, whether he wanted to or not.
Strange things are afoot in Sendai, Chizuru-chan. We can't be careless. Oh, wait a minute, he just says Chizuru, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to know what Heisuke's up to, but our priority is figuring out what's behind these murders. Got it?
I nodded. There were plenty of questions I wanted to ask him, but he had other things on his mind. It wasn't the time. The following day, Hijikata-san began his investigation. I tried to convince him that his body needed rest, not the stress of a murder investigation. I might as well have tried to lift a horse. That was how I found myself lounging around our rooms while Hijikata-san went off on rounds with the rest of the soldiers. I was so engaged when an unexpected visitor arrived. Hesuke-kun? Perhaps it was only from being up and about during the day, but he looked especially pale.
Where's Hijikata-san?
He's off doing rounds at the castle. Hesuke-kun was clearly upset about something, but he paused for a moment to rein himself back in.
Well, can you give him a message for me?
I nodded.
Oh.
Hijikata-san's been very worried about you guys. He couldn't get a hold of you.
I figured as much.
He shook his head in apology and frustration, but he was still clearly Heisuke.
Hey.
There was no way he was out murdering people. Can you tell me what's going on? He nodded vigorously.
Yeah. I can tell you everything that's happened since we got to Sendai. Just make sure that you pass it on to Hijikata-san.
Alright.
Sendai Castle isn't being cooperative. Chances are they're being pressured somehow by the Imperial Army. At least that's my guess. So we looked around a little more, and while we're doing that, we found out that Kodo's actually in Sendai.
What? My father had been forced to do research on the Furies by the rebels before war broke out. Or at least that's what we thought. But now he was here? In Sendai?
Yeah, and Kodo seems to be leading a unit of Furies in the Imperial Army.
He'd grown suddenly awkward, possibly because he realized this news wasn't exactly pleasant for me.
Well, we figured we couldn't just let that slide, so we started watching the Furies, seeing where they were going and stuff.
And?
Well, I saw San and San meet with Kodo.
What? Heisuke explained that San and San had told him they'd be more likely to get spotted if they moved together, and had gone off on his own. Sometime after they'd split up, Heisuke-kun had seen San and San meeting with my father.
I don't know what San and San's up to. Was there something else?
Eh?
Because I briefly saw another text box before this one came up. Okay, never mind.
Oh, that's because, I think it's because, they're different textures. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what San and San's up to.
It was certainly possible that San and San could learn what was really going on by speaking with my father, but if there was an entire unit of Furies under my father's command, then meeting with him under false pretenses seemed awfully dangerous. Like charging into an enemy line alone. You mean you'd like him to talk to you if he's going to go do something dangerous?
No, see, it wasn't just once or twice. He's been meeting with Kodo a lot. And if I bring it up, he just dodges the question. He doesn't act like he's got any plans to contact the rest of the Shinsengumi. I just don't know what to do. I heard Hijikata-san was in Sendai, so I snuck away and came here.
It was the middle of the day, which meant Sana-san was probably still sleeping. Heisuke-kun was clearly suffering from being out with the sun, but the opportunity had been too good to miss. It must have been hard on you. I just let my eyes fall to the floor, not sure what else to say, when several strange men suddenly leapt into the room.
We have been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty.
Oh, Jesus. What? Without even bothering to speak, they lunged at Heisuke-kun, swords already out and shining.
Oh no.
He dodged the attack easily, drawing his own sword as he moved. With a snarl, Heisuke struck out at once, struck out at one of the men before he had a chance to recover.
Ah!
The man
At least
staggered.
it scored like that.
Yeah, somehow! The man staggered back, blood pouring from his arm. But even as I watched, the wound closed and the blood stopped. Furies?
Red Chizuru-chan!
But then, just as I turned,
Hold on. There's no need for that. Who is this? Oh, I think it's Sonnen.
mm-mm.
No?
No.
Who?
What?
Is it Faja?
That voice was familiar. Very familiar. Father?
Daddy dearest.
Yeah. The men who attacked Heisuke didn't seem to see this as a sign that they should stop, and they continued to advance on Heisuke-kun, swords glittering. Although he was clearly the superior in regard to swordsmanship, he was outnumbered, and the daylight had weakened him. He moved more slowly, and his strikes weren't as sure. The men my father had brought, however, showed no indication of being similarly affected.
Aren't they wonderful? Furies, no longer restrained by the cycles of day and night.
If what he said was true, they had indeed been improved, but I could hardly say that I saw them as wonderful. Father, please, stop them! His eyes widened as if he'd only just remembered, and he looked over to Heisuke-kun with a smile.
Ah, yes. I don't know how to thank you. Without you, it would have taken me much longer to find my daughter. You followed me!
Heisuke-kun spat out through gritted teeth.
Followed me.
I almost said teeth. My father ignored him and turned back to me. His voice was soft.
I've come to get you. At last, we'll be able to restore our clan.
Clan? You mean the Yukimura clan? He smiled and nodded.
With these superior furies, restoring the glory of our clan will be child's play.
He was talking nonsense. Or perhaps I simply didn't want to understand. You're planning to use Furies to restore the Yukimura lineage to power?
Yes, I am. I've done all this for you.
I stood stunned for a moment, then shook my head. I can't go with you, Father. I don't want glory if it comes to violence. If it comes from violence. I gave him a shaky smile, hoping that it might help him accept my refusal. Instead, he walked closer.
Stranger danger!
Stranger danger! I tried to back away, but there were Furies blocking my way.
You've been with the Shinsengumi for too long. They've corrupted you.
What? No! I hadn't changed. He had.
God damn it! Get off me, you bastards!
He'd managed to keep the Furies at bay with his sword, but we were both completely surrounded. Father?
If we just sit down and talk this through, I'm sure you'd understand.
Then he drove his fist into my stomach.
That wasn't very country roads of him.
Stars leapt up before my eyes. The world went dim, and I slipped into unconsciousness. When I awoke, I was in a room I didn't recognize. Where am I? My words had been more for myself than anything, as I didn't expect an answer. But to my surprise, a familiar voice spoke from behind me.
You're here in Sendai Castle.
Son? And next to him was my father. What's going on? Not particularly specific, but I couldn't think of anything else to say.
I met with Kodo-san secretly here in Sendai, and we've agreed to work together in order to do the research on Furies.
Then, you're working with the Imperial Army now?
Is that what you think? Interesting. Well, perhaps that's true.
He gave me a teasing smile. Also, all characters that are intelligent have to say interesting.
You goddamn snake!
Snake. And I say that because I make Jade say interesting.
Oh!
Yeah. Like, she's probably as smart as Sanan as well.
And without all the special quirks.
Like, My father looked at me concerned.
How are you feeling, Chizuru? I tried not to hit you too hard.
Oh. It was a sick parody of kindness, but there was something in his tone that reminded me of the father I remembered. I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Yeah, I'm okay. He had kidnapped me, true, but he hadn't tied me up or shackled me in some way. That was unexpected. Perhaps...
I wouldn't suggest making attempting to escape. We could make that difficult.
Okay. As long as San and my father were in the room, then escape was hopeless.
In any event, it was reckless of you to bring her here, Kodo-san.
Sanan's face was bitter as he looked at my father.
Ijikata-san is no fool. He may very well be on to our plan.
My father's brow furrowed.
You were the one who told me that if I wanted to know where my daughter was, all I had to do was follow Todo to the Shinsengumi. Yes, I did, but I never suggested we ought to kidnap her.
He sighed.
Well, what's done is done. No point arguing about it. We need to be thinking about what this could mean and plan for it. You needn't worry about the future.
His eyes were narrow and his voice confident.
I'm sure the Furies I left to deal with young Todo will return to the castle soon.
What? What did they do to Hiskakun?
Discord did not like that.
Oh, wonderful. But I already knew the answer. If he let Hiskakun go, the first thing he would do would be to tell Hijikata-san everything, and then the jig would be up.
I doubt he survived. After all, I did bring quite a few on them.
Hiskakun was an excellent swordsman and a fury, but the furies my father had brought didn't seem to have any trouble in sunlight. Hiskakun, on the other hand, had looked pale and weakened. I felt my heart clench with worry. Then suddenly...
Really? Come on, why you gotta just assume I'm dead? Hurts my feelings.
Hiskakun? And behind him...
Chizuru, you alright?
He spared me a quick, concerned glance. Then his eyes flicked back to Sanan-san and Kodo. I'm fine. I nodded vigorously, and Hijikata-san let out a short snort of laughter.
What? But my Furies are better. How could you have destroyed them all?
Hijikata-san gave him a wry smile.
Better? If you say so, old man, but if you want to take out the Shinsengumi, you'll need about 10 times what you sent.
My father seemed at a loss for words.
I figured you'd show up here soon.
Sun, however, didn't seem surprised in the least.
You didn't bring any of them in, though. Well, I suspected you wouldn't. Still, doesn't it seem rather reckless for the two of you to just charge headlong into unknown enemy territory?
Hijikata-san leveled his cold, piercing glare at Sanan-san, and when he spoke, his voice was as frigid as frozen steel.
Explain. Why didn't you contact us?
Sanan-san's face fell just a little bit.
There's nothing for you in Sendai. The Northern Alliance plans to leave the war.
What? The Sendai Domain, the leader of the Alliance, was trying to avoid the war. It hit almost like a physical blow.
They heard about all the losses in Aizu. Perhaps they got scared.
At that point, my father seemed to decide that there was little point in keeping anything more hidden.
I was given orders by the Imperial Army to come to Sendai. They told me to take the castle with my Furies and completely annihilate the Northern Alliance. But that's not all I wanted to do. But that's not what I wanted to do. I can't agree with their ideology of politics. And at any rate, the Sendai were already preparing to flee. I had a little pressure and I was able to keep them from doing anything. We found common ground in our distaste for the Imperial Army and decided to seize Sendai ourselves. In return for not attacking the castle directly, Kodo-san was given tacit consent to remain by the domain. That allowed us to increase our Furies in number.
Father, does this mean you're on the side of the former shogunate's army? He gave me a warm smile.
I am on your side, Chizuru. I have no intention of taking part in mankind's disputes. Let us bring retribution to the humans who destroyed our clan. We will forge a new kingdom with our own hands.
Father... So he meant to declare war against all of mankind, then? No. Not even for my father would I do such a thing. But before I could answer, a whole crowd of men poured into the room.
Ha! They seem to have noticed the intruders.
There was still a smile playing about Sanan-san's face.
Not only does this castle hold the Furies of the Imperial Army, but also the Shinsengumi's Fury Corps.
Then we would have to contend not only with our own Furies, but also with my father's much more dangerous improved ones.
All the Furies that exist in this country are gathered in this castle. They are powerful. They are a force powerful enough to overcome even the newest Western firearms of the Imperial Army.
That they were powerful, I had no doubt. But in their eyes I saw only madness, their mindless hunger and lust for blood of an animal starved too long. There was no humanity there.
Please give us your help, Chizuru. We need you to lead us. You must command these Furies and restore your demon clan.
Father... I didn't care about restoring the Yukimura clan. I didn't want to create more Furies so that blood could drive them mad. I didn't want to see any more people suffer. Father, you're wrong. His eyes went wide. Building a kingdom on the corpses of others isn't right. Human or demon, every life is precious. His mouth gaped in shock. Sana-san turned to Hijikata-san.
I believe Kodo-san was saying that he'd be willing to assist the Shinsengumi. So what do you think, Hijikata-san? Would you like to lead these army of furies against the Imperial Army? No, that sounds like recycling. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Well point, mate. Good point there, mage.
Hijikata-san's reply was immediate and certain.
Sir,
What was that?
you know the answer.
Hijikata-san had been opposed to the Furies from the beginning, and he had never approved of Sana-san's research into them after my father's disappearance. I doubted he changed his mind about them. Sana-san sighed.
Very well.
He drew his sword slowly from its scabbard. Sana-san! Did he mean to attack his own friend? I stiffened, but Hijikata-san didn't move towards his own blade. He remained still, coolly contemplating Sana-san. Almost as if someone had dumped paint on it, Sana-san's hair slowly changed to white. He raised his sword. A single cut, and the Fury was dead.
All of Fury exists for his battle, and now we've taken that away from them.
Sana-san's mouth twisted into a sad smile as he looked down at the man he'd just killed.
The least I could do for them is let them die here, in battle.
The room fell silent.
Well, fucking well.
Then it exploded in noise. The enraged battle cries of the Furies, the click and rattle of swords being drawn.
Hesuke. I know!
Hisker dropped into a fighting stance and slipped his hand around the hilt of his sword. His hair turned white.
Sana-san, this is way too badass for an old guy like you. Why didn't you tell us? Well, as they say, to fool your enemies, you must first fool your friends.
Their faces split into grins as their swords whistled and sparked, fury after fury falling before them.
Besides, doesn't the hero's right-hand man make the best villain?
Hijikata-san responded with a bark of royal laughter and drew his own sword in a flash of silver light as his hair turned white as well.
Still means the hero gets stuck cleaning up the damn mess.
As their three swords spun and hissed through the air, blood gushed and splattered, painting the walls of Sendai Castle a deep red. I am not ready for this. I'm gonna drink this tea.
Yeah.
I'm still not ready for this.
Shut up, clock in, and roll out.
They looked like three gods of death, drowning their foes in a sea of blood. I noticed that my mouth had gone dry, and my hands had begun to shake.
Then, everything you told me was a lie?
He seemed deflated.
You said that we were going to have an ad break in progress?
God damn it.
You said you wanted to do more research on the Furies at the Kingdom of Demons. Why, Sana-san?
Sana-san looked over at him, sword in hand, splattered with blood.
I saw the end.
He gave a sad chuckle.
I was trying to discover a way for Furies to live past their limits. Learning how our short lifespan made me impatient. If I wanted to continue my research, then I would have to dirty my hands.
He frowned, disappointed in himself. Every suspicious thing he had done had been in service of a single goal, saving his fellow Furies.
The Furies have no future. You know that as well as I do, Kondo-san.
You said Kondo?
I think I did, Kodo-san.
It was the truth, but it hit like a physical blow.
No matter how resistant you make them to sunlight, they will push themselves too hard, and their lifespans will shrink, and bloodlust will drive them mad.
My father simply stood there, dumbstruck.
Hey, the ad break ended.
Woo!
San-san
had continued the truth we'd all suspected. There was no way to save the Furies.
We are a mistake. A failed experiment. Furies are not something that should exist on this earth. Let's end this.
Sonatan's true intentions had left me surprised and shocked, as had his admission that the Furies were a failure. Was he right? Could they never be saved? Had all hope been lost? I let my mind drift for just a moment, and then saw a shadow move out of the corner of my eye. Suddenly there was a Fury only feet from me, his eyes red and mad with bloodlust. I reached for my sword. I was a little too late. Before my hand had even touched the hilt of my sword, I saw the Fury's blade sweeping down towards me. Huh? There was blood, but it wasn't mine.
Well, it's partially yours.
No cuts on my body. Someone had protected me. Father? I reached for him as he fell. The Fury pulled back for another swing. One that would likely be the end of both of us. Then it froze, gurgled oddly, and slid neatly in half, a blade glistening in the center. The owner of that blade, his face twisted by an emotion I couldn't place, snarled at the corpse as it fell.
Turn your back on us in a fight, will you? Idiot!
He shifted his eyes up to my father's wound, and I saw his face twitch. Immediately he moved closer and turned his back to us, sword held at the ready.
Chizuru, are you alright?
It was an effort for him to speak. The wound he'd taken was undoubtedly a fatal one. I wanted to scream, but I tried to force a smile on my face. Yes, I'm fine. I'm not hurt at all. Despite my best efforts, my voice shook and cracked. He looked so peaceful.
Our research was a failure. I knew there was no future for the Furies.
Father?
But I couldn't give it up. I wanted to bring back your clan, your family.
Ever since I'd been young, my father had always tried to do what was best for me. Even now, in his own way, he was still trying.
It seems my fate is to die with the Furies. I have done something terrible.
His voice was getting weaker.
This is for the best. Please, Jisuru, don't cry.
I said nothing. I only nodded. Were I to open my mouth and speak, then the tears would never stop. He gave me one last smile, sighed, and was gone. After what seemed like an eternity, I looked up. The battle was over. Except for Hesuke, Sanan-san, and Hijikata-san, not a single Fury was left alive.
Hesuke-kun.
Oh, right.
Kind of a waste, isn't it? That many Furies could have been awfully useful.
I blinked. Had he just made a joke?
The Shinsugumi's lost a lot of its fighting strength. Do you think we can win the next battle?
Sanan-san's mouth tightened in concern, but Hijikata-san replied with a smile.
You don't win battles by thinking you'll lose them. Well, you don't win just by thinking you'll win either.
Hesuke-kun snorted with laughter, then coughed to cover it up. It was true, the Shinsengumi had lost a lot of Furies, but their unity had grown stronger. That was something at least. Or so I wanted to think. A sudden burst of pain wiped the grin from Hesuke-kun's face. Sanan-san too had doubled over in agony.
There is no data to load.
Was it the bloodlust? I'm sorry, I pressed the button. I just
Heavy moment, and we got ourselves something happen here.
sorry.
Of course, that's par for the course at this point.
Yes, but I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for this. Not again.
Steal yourself.
Ah!
Looks like we've reached our limit.
His voice was oddly calm, almost distant. Limit? Have they used up the last of their life? Hesuke-kun saw my eyes go wide and gave me an awkward sort of laugh.
Well, we were some of the first Furies.
He was right. They've been in more battles as Furies than anyone else, and all of the strength and healing they've enjoyed had eaten away at their futures until there was nothing left.
Did you know?
Sanan-san smiled.
What warrior doesn't know his own body?
His legs suddenly shook violently, and he crumpled to the floor.
Oh, God damn it.
I can't! Hijikata-san dropped to his knees and took both of their hands in his own.
Oh. I know we have not always seen eye to eye, but I have always been proud to be a member of the Shinsengumi.
Sanan-san's voice was growing quiet.
You didn't think I figured that out? Any idiot could see you'd do anything for the Shinsengumi.
Hijikata-san was doing his best to act tough, so that Hesuke-kun and Sanan-san wouldn't worry. But it wasn't easy for him.
It looks like we'll be taking the lead this time. Don't be in too much of a hurry to catch up, though. Alright?
Hesuke-kun grinned and tried to keep his tone light. Although his voice was starting to fade too, Hijikata-san gave him a short nod.
I'm having a hard time buying that, yes. You're a little too short-tempered to keep a promise like that. Shut it, you little brat. You really think I'm gonna take that kind of crap from you?
Hitsuku's face relaxed as Hijikata-san snarled back at him.
Oh no!
He'd done that on purpose.
God damn it! You must go north.
Sonon-san could barely speak now.
Kodo said that he used the water of life from the northeast when he... oh no. Kodo-san said that he used the water from the northeast when he was refining the water of life. Wow, Discord does not like me trying to whisper that.
It came through, though.
Oh, well.
Anyway, then perhaps there was still hope. Perhaps something from the north could repair the damage done to the bodies of the Furies.
Hijikata, don't lose sight of what's important, alright? Being reckless doesn't work out so well.
His voice had grown rough and raspy. I saw Hijikata-san's knuckles whiten as he tightened his grip.
Oh.
But with a sound like sand pouring over a stone, their hands crumpled into ash, and in moments they were no more. Hijikata-san? He didn't answer. He only stared, silent, at the twin piles of ash that sat where his friends had been only moments before. I felt somehow that he was crying. There were no tears in his eyes, of course, but even so, somehow he was crying. I didn't know how long we sat there before he stood up.
Let's go.
Okay. His voice was curt and clipped, but when he turned to look at me, his eyes went suddenly wide, and he turned away uncomfortable.
Hey, no crying.
I nodded and tried to stop, but it was no good. No matter how much I wiped at them, the tears wouldn't stop. In one day, in 1 hour, I've been forced to say goodbye to Heisuke-kun, Sanan-san, and the father I hadn't seen for more than a year. The following day, Hijikata-san and Enomoto-san visited Sendai Castle once again. Their intent was to discern the leanings of the Northern Alliance, specifically in regard to fighting the Imperial Army. But it was just as Sanan-san had said. News of the losses in Aizu had paralyzed the Sendai leadership with fear, and they were scrambling to make some sort of deal with the Imperial Army. Enomoto argued that they should give up on the Sendai and move further north. We also learned that Yoshinobu had already made a deal with the new government and was currently under house arrest.
Oh!
That wasn't enough for the new government, however. Satsuma, Choshu, and their allies were still working to take everything that belonged to the shogun. Enomoto had made it quite clear that he didn't care for how they were doing things. He argued for founding a new country for those who were oppressed by the Imperial Army. That was a decision that would have to be postponed, however, at least until the end of the battle at Bonati Pass. Once that was finished, Otori's men would arrive in Sendai. After the army was whole again, they'd make their decision. The boys are gone!
The boys are gone.
Not the boys.
I know.
I heard talk that we might leave the mainland to regroup elsewhere, and ask Hichikata-san about it. Are you going to go to Ezo? Ezo, northern part of Japan, now known as Hokkaido. Guess where Haruka's from?
Hokkaido?
Ezo.
Oh, Ezo, huh?
I mean, it's called Ezo right now. It's get renamed to Hokkaido later.
Well,
Meh.
potato.
I guess that means SSL Haruka is from Hokkaido.
Yeah, there we go.
Ezo was a large island north of Sendai, at least a day's boat ride across the sea.
Maybe.
He shrugged.
The Shinsengumi works for the Shogun and the Shogunate. That hasn't changed.
Yeah. The Shinsengumi shows others the way, right? I nodded. Hichikatsu-san smiled.
If the Shinsengumi is fighting something fighting men can believe in, then I'm sure Kondo-san's happy.
The ideals that Kondo-san and Hichikata-san had fought so hard for have been taken to heart by many soldiers and samurai. If Kondo-san still been alive, I had no doubt he would have been pleased. Well, that's one more reason not to die, then. It was a burden on him, undoubtedly, but Hichikata-san had seen many of his friends lay down their lives for the Shinsengumi and what it represented. Knowing what it had meant to them, he couldn't allow himself to die.
As long as men believe in what we stand for, I can't let the Shinsengumi die.
That's right. The doubt that I'd seen in him weeks before was gone. He had accepted his place as the head of the Shinsengumi. Seeing him so at peace made me feel the same. Hichikata-san smiled.
I had to protect the Shinsengumi.
Yes, you do. He looked over at me, his gaze warm. I felt good. Just being next to him was enough to make me feel like everything was right with the world. A few days later, the men we'd left in Aizu finally reached Sendai. Unfortunately, bad news came with them. Oops.
Saito has fallen in battle. His last words were, "Leave the rest to Hichikata-san."
Shimada's jaw was tight with emotion as he spoke. Hichikata-san had left him in Aizu to watch after Saito. He probably felt especially responsible for the other man's death. I bit my lip until it almost bled, trying desperately to keep the tears from my eyes. It didn't seem fair to cry in front of him.
Sorry I put you through that, Shimada. I'm just glad you made it back alive.
He clapped the other man gently on the shoulder, but it was his words that made Shimada-san's eyes go wide.
Thank you, sir.
Heisuke-kun and Sanan-san had died in Sendai, and Saito-san had died in Aizu. Hijikata-san was the only fury left among the Shinsengumi.
I know it's already been hard, but I'm sure things are gonna get worse.
He looked down for a moment as he spoke.
You've all fought enough.
Shimada-san set his jaw and looked back at Hijikata-san.
I've already given my life to the Shinsengumi. It just hasn't taken it yet. We'll follow you to the end of the world, sir.
The rest of the men nodded and mumbled in agreement.
We want to fight as the Shinsengumi. We want to fight for the justice we believe in.
Shimada-san's words brought to mind what Saito-san had said to me the last time I'd seen him. The Shinsengumi was united in body and mind. I felt a great happiness welling up in me, and suddenly I couldn't hold it any longer. Tears spilled forth.
Idiots.
He twisted his face into a sneer, but there was no hiding the warmth in his eyes as he looked out over the men. Every one of them respected him. They knew the coming battle would not be an easy one, but there was no doubt in their minds. Their place was with Hijikata-san and the Shinsengumi. October came. The Sendai domain was moving closer and closer to submitting to the Imperial Army, and it was getting more and more dangerous for us to stay. Even Otori-san agreed that we should leave. Ultimately, it was decided that the Shinsengumi would head to Ezo with Enomoto's fleet. We left Sendai and headed into the forest. We'd almost arrived at the rendezvous when Hijikata-san suddenly stopped and turned to me.
Chizuru, I want you to stay here.
What? His words stopped me in my tracks.
There's gonna be a lot of fighting. You should get away from that. There's no reason for you to stick with us anymore.
No, there is! It came out somewhat louder than I intended. There was no legitimate reason for me to accompany Hijikata-san and the Shinsengumi, true, but I wanted to stay by his side.
Cosmo will probably be coming after me soon, but I can take him. You don't need to worry about that.
No, that's not it! Once again, I found myself nearly yelling. I don't want to stay just because I think I need you to protect me from Kazuma. Hijikata-san sighed and looked away for a moment. When his eyes came back to me, they were cold and quiet, almost sad.
I can't make you happy.
What? My eyes went wide. When I spoke, my voice shook. I don't care about being happy. I don't need to be happy. All I want to do is fight alongside the Shinsengumi. I want to follow the same path you do. I didn't care what my position might be, so long as I could stay at Hijikata-san's side. Please, I'll do whatever you tell me to. He gave me a twisted half smile and crossed his arms. Finally, he sighed and shrugged, defeated.
Well, I'm touched you feel that way, but I want you to be happy.
Hijikata-san. He wasn't just saying that to make me feel better. I could feel the sincerity behind his words. I was happy to know he cared, but...
Here are your orders. from the chief of the Shinsengumi.
He looked me in the eye, his voice flat and cold.
You would impede the function of the Shinsengumi and will therefore not accompany us to Ezo. You're a woman and you deserve to have your own life. I can't let us tie you down anymore.
It wasn't a shove. It was barely a gentle tap. But I felt as if I'd been punched. No, this isn't what I want! I cried out to him, my voice shaking, but his back was to me, and he showed no sign that he heard. Hijikata-san! He walked away from me and didn't stop. He didn't even turn to look back at me. Hijikata-san! I stood there stunned. It felt as if the very ground I stood on had begun to crumble beneath me. Despair filled my heart until I thought it would shatter, and tears began to pour from my eyes. Otori.
Yukimura-kun?
I heard a quiet voice behind me and turned to see who it was. Otori-san.
I heard everything.
Otori-san and his men were marching with us to meet Enomoto's fleet. I'd heard that he'd been in some of the fiercest battles in Aiza, and they'd changed him. He seemed stronger now, like a samurai.
I apologize for eavesdropping, but it didn't seem like there would be a good moment for me to admit I was here.
He coughed awkwardly, then handed me a small white piece of cloth. What's this?
It's called a handkerchief. They use them in the West. Thought you could use it to dry your tears.
I hesitated for a moment, but it was embarrassing to stand in front of him covered in tears, so I took it. He waited until I had calmed down some before he began to speak again.
You want to stay with Hijikata-san, I take it?
I nodded.
Then, will you wait for us until we've settled down in Ezo?
What?
Once we've settled in, I could send for you. I mean, I can hardly leave a crying girl here alone.
He smiled. Otori-san.
Oh, you needn't thank me.
He dismissed my protest with a good-natured wave of his hand.
Once we get to Ezo, I'll assign you to Hijikata-san. It won't be easy work, but at least you'll be with him.
And thus ends Chapter 8 to Chapter 9.
And it has been 2.5 hours.
Yep, I can see that. We are not.
We are not doing this.
We are not doing this.
We didn't get to finish it, but we will at least finish it tomorrow night.
Yes. Do we want to spin now?
I've already got it prepared.
Oh,
Might as
shit.
well.
I
So,
did not
I'm
expect
just
that.
gonna go.
Alright.
So I'm just gonna do this.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm going to the title screen and going into...
Record of service? No?
Sure. Just so that it doesn't play the opening.
Right, so, here we go. And I tried to give them their colors.
Hold on. I can't see it. Okay, now I can see it.
Yeah, I
Alright.
tried to give them their colors.
Oh, yes.
Let's go!
First one goes
Round
to...
1!
Hanada.
Round 1 goes to Hanada. Round 2!
Round 2 goes to...
Oh, this is not gonna be Okita.
It's gonna be Solji. That's round 2. First 1 to 3, by the way.
Yeah.
Next is...
No, go away.
No,
go
no,
away.
no, no, no! I don't want... It's
Not yet. No.
No, no,
It's
not
too-
Kazuma. By the way, that's Kazuma. Round 4 is...
It's
It's a Soji. It's Sokita. It's Soji. Round 5.
Oh boy. Hanada.
Harada. Oh
Oh,
god.
boy.
It's a fight between Harada and Okita now. Round
Spear
6.
boy versus sick boy. Wait.
No, 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 no! No! He's... Okay, Harada, Okita, Kazuma. Fuck.
Come on.
Come on, come on!
Yes. It's Hanada.
Harada! So, tomorrow night,
After we get done with chapter 9.
we're going to be starting Harada's route.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
I'm just gonna go ahead and do this.
Ah.
But before that, tomorrow afternoon we are doing some Pokemon Blueberry Academy shenanigans,
Yes, we are.
which is going to be a lot of fun. There will be at least 3 of us doing that, so the stuff will actually go quick.
We can get a lot of points.
Yeah.
And I can actually continue with the E4 now that I'm not stuck at Dragon Boy.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So until then, please drink water.
have a good day or night.
Try not to die because you didn't drink water. We will see you tomorrow afternoon, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, no.
Oh, button!
Oh, got it.